Good afternoon. I'd like to thank Dagmar for the invitation to speak. 5 minutes ago, she said to me that because this is an afternoon session, that I should make it very exciting. She then said no pressure. So if you see me break out into song and dance, that'll be me trying to make it exciting. Okay, so medieval Indian traditions of Haṭha and Rājayoga were undoubtedly soteriological disciplines. The Sanskrit texts which teach these types of yoga are unanimous in stating that the final goal of yoga is liberation from transmigration. The necessary cause of liberation was the attainment of a meditative state called Samadhi, in which the yogin does not breathe, think, or move. My survey of the earliest works on Haṭha and Rājayoga that date from the 11th to 15th century reveals that both yogas, which were usually combined, aim solely for liberation in life, jīvanmukti, through the practice of Samadhi. In some texts, liberation in life was equated with the state of Samadhi. This implies that the liberated yogin remains like a stone indefinitely in an ageless and deathless body. However, in other texts, the liberated yogin is said to emerge from Samadhi to live in the world however he so wishes with the power of a creator God. In this paper, I shall discuss these different yogic conceptions of jīvanmukti in light of earlier ascetic, tantric and alchemical traditions, and I'll try to answer why Haṭha and Rājayoga works tacitly adopted different conceptions of liberation. Seeing that most of the Sanskrit texts to which I'll be referring have not been critically edited or translated into English, I shall begin by outlining briefly the corpus of early works on Haṭha and Rājayoga, and I shall present a selection of passages from them on Samadhi and liberation. The earliest texts of Haṭha and Rājayoga date from the 11th century onwards. Hatha Yoga relied upon breath retentions, called baka, and physical techniques, such as the 3 locks, called bandhas, to forcefully raise apana vayu, semen, or kundalini upwards. Raja Yoga was essentially the state of Samadhi, and was so called because it was considered to be the king of all yogas, that is, the best of all yogas, the goal of all yogas. Early systems of Haṭha and Rājayoga were combined to form a method called Haṭha in the Haṭha which was composed in the mid-15th century. As Christian Buoy noted, the Haṭha was an anthology. It was an anthology of the earlier works that taught Haṭha and Rājayoga either by name or the techniques that were associated with them. Therefore, an early corpus of Haṭha and Rājayoga texts can be postulated on the basis of the verses they share with the Haṭha as well as their mutual content. So those in red teach Haṭha and Rājayoga by name. The Vasishta Samhita and the Yoga Yajnavalkya in purple teach a system of Ashtanga Yoga without giving it a name. Nonetheless, the author of the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra considered the Ashtanga Yoga of Yajnavalkya and Vasishta to be Hatha Yoga. Furthermore, the Vasishta Samhita was the source of most of the asanas in the Haṭha. The remaining texts in black teach some of the physical techniques of Hatha Yoga or the no-mind state of Raja Yoga, which is described at length in the 4th chapter of the Haṭha. I've divided the texts into 2 groups. Those of the first group indicate that Samadhi and liberation are one and the same. They often conflate descriptions of Samadhi with the liberated state, the liberated yogin, or the highest reality which appears in Samadhi. An example of this occurs in the following passage from the 11th century Manaskar, which is the earliest known work to teach a system of yoga called Raja Yoga. Okay, so we can read this together. The knower of Raja Yoga, whose inhalation and exhalation have disappeared, whose grasping of sense objects has ceased, and who is motionless and free from any undertakings, attains bliss. This extraordinary Samadhi, by which all volition has been cut off, and in which all movement has ceased, is intelligible only through itself, and is beyond the scope of words. The Raja Yogin, who always remains as though asleep in the state of waking and is free from breathing in and out, is certainly liberated. Knowers of the highest reality know that it is beyond the duality of existence and non-existence, passes beyond sleep and waking, and is free from dying and living. Similarly, the Garaksha Shataka, a text of approximately 100 verses that teaches Hatha yogic techniques to raise Kundalini, describes the liberated yogin as suspended in Samadhi. Only he is liberated whose mind is not asleep nor awake, is free from memory and forgetfulness, and does not cease nor rise. Undoubtedly liberated is one whose breath does not go in or out, it does not move in the left or right nostril, and it does not go up nor down. The Viveka Martanda, which is also in the first group, and calls itself in two instances a ladder to liberation of Mukti Sohana, states that the yogin becomes liberated by attaining Samadhi. The text concludes with a long passage on Samadhi and the highest reality. This conclusion can be understood as a definitive statement on the liberated yogin. Having abandoned good and bad action, the yogin obtains liberation by means of Samadhi. When the breath perishes and the mind dissolves, then the state of one flavour arises. This is called Samadhi. The yogin immersed in Samadhi does not cognize smell, taste, form, touch, sound, himself, or another. The knowers of the highest reality, the Paratattva, revealed by Samadhi, know it to be without beginning or end and devoid of support, multiplicity, foundation, illness, and form. Like milk poured into milk, ghee into ghee, and fire in fire, the yogin immersed in Samadhi becomes absorbed in that reality. Although the term jīvanmukti is not used in these verses, it's clear that the liberated yogin remains alive. This is stated explicitly in other related works, such as the Amrita-siddhi, which is a hybrid text of tantric and ascetic teachings that was written for esoteric Buddhists. It can be included among the early corpus of Haṭha and Rājayoga because it's the earliest known work to teach the three mudras, namely Mahamudra, Mahabandha, Mahaveda, that became, basically were incorporated in all the subsequent Hatha Yoga texts. Its chapters on Samadhi and jīvanmukti provide a clear conception of the yogin who is liberated by Samadhi. Thus, yogins who've been perfected by Samadhi play on mountain peaks and in caves for hundreds, thousands, and even hundreds of thousands of years. Indifferent to knowledge of the external world and devoted to remaining in Samadhi, these yogins who see with gnosis, jnana, dwell in a place free of people. They live thus and are seen only by one who has need of them. These yogins who are perfected in the form of victors, jivas, should be known as liberated in life. The word play, crudity, probably connotes the enjoyment of the siddhis that the liberated yogin has attained in Samadhi rather than some physical activity. More importantly, these liberated yogins remain in Samadhi hidden from the world until someone in need of guidance seeks them out. This 11th century conception of the liberated yogin is uncannily similar to 20th century myths of ancient sadhus living in the Himalayas who allegedly reveal themselves to only genuine seekers. So the second group of texts indicate that the yogin may emerge from Samadhi to live in the world. One of the earliest among them is the Dattatreya Shastra, which teaches the fourfold system of mantra, laya, hatha and Rājayoga. It explicitly mentions that jīvanmukti is achieved by Samadhi. One who has accomplished formless meditation should then practice Samadhi. By practicing this meditation for only 12 days, one achieves Samadhi. Having stopped the breath, the wise person surely becomes liberated in life. Samadhi is the state of sameness of the individual self, the supreme self. The Dattatreya Shastra is the only early text on Haṭha and Rājayoga to mention that the yogin may cast off his body and dissolve into the supreme Brahman. The practice of yogic suicide, referred to as Utkranti, is largely absent in works on Hatha Yoga, perhaps because it was at odds with the goal of immortality. Nonetheless, the Yoga Shastra goes on to indicate that liberation in life is more than a suspended state of Samadhi if the yogin decides to keep his body. Now, if his own body is dear to him and he desires not to cast it off, he can wander in all the worlds endowed with the siddhis, beginning with minimization. Having become a god whenever he desires it, he could also live in heaven, or by his own wish he may instantly become either a man or a spirit. By his wish he may become a creature such as a lion, tiger, elephant, or horse. Thus by his will, the wise yogin lives as a great god. Another text in this group, the Anuttara Prabodha, teaches the same four yogas, and like the Yoga Shastra, states that the Raja Yogin can become an equal to the god of yoga. When a flute-like sound arises in the final stage, then the mind, having become one with it, is called Raja Yoga. The Raja Yogin becomes a creator and destroyer of the universe and equal to the god of yoga. However, unlike the Yoga Shastra, this passage of the Anuttara Prabodha does not clearly indicate whether the liberated yogin emerges from Samadhi. He may simply remain in Samadhi as a creator god. My current research has identified two redactions of the Anuttara Prabodha, and this passage occurs in the oldest, which was probably composed in the 14th century. Sometime after the 15th century, the Anuttara Prabodha was redacted and had nearly 30 verses added to it. This long redaction, which was published by Kalyani Manik in 1954, explicitly states that the yogin attains jīvanmukti and may live as anyone in society, from a libertine to a celibate. Having obtained the state of Raja Yoga, which enables the yogin to control all beings, he may do or not do anything, behaving as he likes. The king of yogins might be anyone who lives naked in caves and in some other place wears divine clothes or a loincloth. He may have great sex with divine women somewhere and be a celibate elsewhere. Sometimes he's intent on eating alms, and at other times he frequents the pleasure house. He always lives freely and allays all suffering. Here the liberated yogin is conceived of as a divine being who is both fully engaged in worldly life and is yet completely transcendent of social conventions. The last passage of a yoga text that I'd like to read with you is from the Yoga Bija. Generally speaking, the early Haṭha and Rāja texts are pithy works that focus on describing techniques and their results, rather than the theory and philosophy behind them. Thus, they're devoid of discussions on the nature of liberation itself. However, the Yoga Bija is somewhat of an exception, as it touches on several philosophical issues, perhaps because it advocated that one needed both yoga and jnana, gnosis, for liberation. In this respect, the Yoga Bija is unique because most Haṭha and Rājayoga texts advocate that only yoga is needed for liberation. It's composed as a dialogue between Shiva and Devi, and at one point the conversation turns to the subject of death, and Shiva says the following. You ask, O moon-faced goddess, what death is for a yogin. He does not die again because of the power of yoga. He has already died. How could death arise for one who has died? O friend, where there is death for all mortals, there he lives. However, where the deluded live, there he is dead. There is nothing he ought to do, and he is not stained by whatever he has done. He is liberated in life, always healthy and free from all faults. However, those Gnostics who are indifferent to yoga are always conquered by their body at death. How are they equal to yogins? Their miserable bodies are lumps of flesh. The yogin is liberated in life and wanders the earth at will. He's omniscient, the creator of all, independent, and can take any form. Shiva's final comment on liberation is as follows. Without siddhis, one should view a man as bound. For one whose body is ageless and immortal, he alone is liberated. Living beings such as dogs, roosters, worms, and so on obtain death. How can liberation occur with the death of their bodies, O goddess? If the breath does not go out, how can the body die? Liberation which is caused by death of the body is not the liberation taught in this text. The Yoga Bija clearly states that the liberated yogin attains a body with the cities of immortality and agelessness. This can be inferred in all Haṭha and Rājayoga works, which teach techniques that are said to prevent old age, cure all diseases, and conquer death. I'd now like to look at some antecedents to the conceptions of liberation we have seen in these Haṭha and Rājayoga works. The defining of liberation as a stone-like state of stillness harks back to older ascetic traditions which advocated withdrawal from activity by means of practices such as sensory control, physical stillness, celibacy, and fasting. As a way of becoming free of karma, the ascetic approach is encapsulated in the following passage from a late layer of the Mahabharata, which nonetheless predates Haṭha and Rājayoga by over 700 years. Johann Bronkhorst refers to this passage in his discussion of meditation in ascetic traditions. Freed from all attachments, taking little food, having conquered the senses, the yogin should fix his mind on the self in the first and last part of the night. Having made his senses firm with his mind, O Lord of Maitala, and having made his mind firm with his intellect, he is motionless like a stone. He should be without trembling, like a pillar, and motionless like a mountain. The wise who know to follow the precepts then call him one engaged in yoga, yoga yukta. He neither hears, nor smells, nor tastes, nor sees. He notices no touch, nor does his mind form conceptions. Like a piece of wood, he does not desire anything, nor does he notice anything. When he has reached the original nature, then sages call him engaged in yoga, and he looks like a lamp shining in a windless place, not flickering and motionless. It will not move upward or sideways. The images of a stone, a piece of wood, and a lamp in a windless place occur frequently in descriptions of Samadhi in Haṭha and Rājayoga texts. The practice of yoga destroys past karma, and the ongoing state of stillness ensures freedom from karma. The difference between these early ascetic traditions and those of Haṭha and Rājayoga is that the latter was a non-initiatory system designed to accommodate householders as well as renunciates. Therefore, extreme acts of asceticism, such as sitting amidst the 5 fires, the Panchavani tapas, or holding one arm up both arms up till they wither away, the Urdhva Bahu, were rejected by proponents of Hatha Yoga. Also, fasting was advised against, and celibacy could be circumvented with certain yoga practices such as Vajrayogini Mudra. Nonetheless, the ascetic state of Raja Yoga may well have remained little more than a lofty ideal to householders, who, of course, would have been engaged in familial and social obligations. Perhaps they practiced Hatha Yoga with the hope that it would bring enough longevity and freedom from illness, so that towards the end of their life, when they were free from obligations, they could then practice yoga uninterrupted. I never explicitly state this. It's just my speculation. The idea that a liberated yogi may become an equal to God is central to earlier tantric traditions, especially those of the Shaiva Siddhanta. In this more orthodox tradition of tantric Shaivism, when the yogin dies, his liberated soul becomes an equal to Shiva, Shiva Tulya, in its omniscience and omnipotence, while remaining fundamentally and eternally separate from Shiva. Also, there are close parallels to the Dattatreya's shape-shifting yogin and the Amaraga Prabodha's king of yogins in earlier Shaiva texts such as the Kalagyanana Nirnaya and the Kularnava Tantra, which date to the 10th and 14th century respectively. In these works, the liberated yogin becomes a Shiva while continuing to live in the world, as we see, for example, O goddess, having known the self by the self, he is the king of yogins. He is said to be a Shiva, he is clearly liberated and may liberate another. O goddess, he is always very pure like a lotus in the mud. Having adopted a mortal body, he sports in the world as a Shiva. And from the Kulanga Tantra, although liberated, the lord of the Kula plays like a child and he behaves like an idiot. The wise Kula yogin speaks like a madman, O goddess. The yogin lives in such a way that people laugh, shun and abuse him. They move far away when they see him. Wearing various outfits, the yogin wanders the world, sometimes looking cultured, sometimes wretched, and sometimes like the supernatural beings called Bhutas and Pishachas. These tantric conceptions of liberation appear to have offered Haṭha and Rājayoga a solution to the problem of teaching ascetic Samadhi to householders. For in this instance, the stone-like state of Samadhi becomes little more than a transitory stage to the power of being able to live in the world however one pleases, remaining free from disease, old age and death. The promise of bodily immortality and liberation in life also features in Shiva alchemical works, as Dagmar referred to in her talk. I just have one example here, which is from the Rasanava Tantra, which seems to mirror some of the discussion that we saw in the Yoga Bija. Liberation in life occurs when one whose body is ageless and immortal experiences their identity with Shiva, O great goddess. It is difficult to obtain even for the gods. Liberation at death is a futile liberation. When the body dies, even an ass is freed. Therefore, one should preserve the body with mercurial potions and tonics. The yogin, on the other hand, preserves his body through yoga, and the absence of references to herbs and elixirs in yoga texts suggests that yoga was generally considered to be a sufficient means to immortality by Haṭha and Rājayoga traditions. So in conclusion, it seems likely that liberation in life was necessitated by claims of immortality in an ageless and deathless body. If certain yoga techniques result in immortality, in the literal sense, then the option of liberation at death, which was the default position of some Brahmanical and Shaiva traditions, was no longer possible. However, the immortal yogins who aimed for liberation in life would have faced the obvious philosophical problem of jīvanmukti, namely, how can one continue to live in the world without accumulating new karma? A philosophical solution to this problem, which we see, for example, in Advaita Vedanta, in the work of Abhinavagupta and so forth, is absent in Haṭha and Rājayoga texts, which appear to have avoided firm doctrinal positions so that people from various religious and philosophical backgrounds could practice them. Therefore, I propose that some yogins resorted to what I've called, following Johann Bronkhorst, an ascetic solution, in which Samadhi and liberation are considered to be the same, whereas other yogins adopted a more theistically orientated solution where the liberated yogin is likened to an all-powerful, shape-shifting creator God, untainted by action. The fact that Haṭha and Rājayoga praxis and theory oscillates between asceticism and Tantra in this manner provides some insight into the synthesis that made these yogas unique at their time. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. We're nearly out of time. But since we started a bit late, let's have 2 questions.
I was just wondering if you could go back to the timeline, because it seems like there's almost a linear development, but then there's a few works that are kind of out of that development. And I wonder if you could kind of comment on that. Does that make sense? Like the purple ones are, there's an 11th century, but otherwise it seems like all of the 2 are later.
Yes, I just put them down there because it's in alphabetical order. That's just by the way I organised it. Sorry about that.
But do you think the jīvanmukti as a god comes later than jīvanmukti as Samadhi? Or?
Well, yes. That's you see and I didn't mention this because I'm not so certain about it, but it seems that the texts which teach Haṭha and Rājayoga by name are more likely to teach this idea that after Samadhi, after you achieve Samadhi, you can emerge from it and live in the world, whereas these earlier texts from which they were drawing techniques and content are sort of basically leave it with the attainment of Samadhi being liberation. So that's, but with the Yoga Taravali, that doesn't quite work. And then with the reason that I haven't really stated that so strongly is because the Haṭha Pradipika really takes the view that Samadhi and liberation are the same. In the Haṭha Pradipika, the Svadharama actually omitted most of the verses that say that the yogi can emerge and live in the world, and focused on the content of the Amanaskar, the Viveka Martanda, and so forth when it came to Samadhi, which basically imply that the yogin remains in Samadhi. So, and of course, after the 15th century, the Haṭha Pradipika became the typology for Hatha Yoga. It was widely quoted in subsequent sources. And so this idea of the tantric notion of becoming an all-powerful God and so forth is played down after that.
Two more questions.
You made a very intriguing comment, Jason, about the philosophy being left out so as to leave the practices open to appropriation by different traditions. I was wondering if you'd like to enlarge a bit on that. I mean, obviously, one issue here is that the Nat tradition, which is closely associated with some of these texts, was taken up both by Buddhists and by Hindus. But
yes.
Was that what you were thinking of? Or
well, and also evidence within the texts themselves that they were written for a broad audience, as the Dattatreya Yoga Shastra says, from Jains, Buddhists, Brahmins, Shramanas, Charvakas, Kapalikas, and so on. The fact that some texts state explicitly that they're teachings of the householders, like the Shiva Samhita. And when we look at the very earliest references to Hatha Yoga, it's an auxiliary practice that is attached to some of the Buddhist tantric traditions, such as the Guhya Samaja Tantra, the Kala Chakra Tantra, more as a yoga of last resort. When the practices of the Tantra have failed, then one's advised to practice Hatha Yoga. So it seems that it was not a sort of a trans-sectarian practice in its earliest form, and then when it's combined with Raja Yoga, as we see in a lot of these texts, then it starts to become a more fully fledged independent system that one could have practiced to go all the way to liberation. And again, I feel that was to challenge some of the older ascetic and tantric traditions, that that it's a non-initiatory tradition, so Diksha was not necessary. You just need a guru who knows how to practice these techniques, and therefore it would have been more widely available, I imagine.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question concerning the Mahabharata passage that you referred, and there we read that the yogi reaches Prakriti, when he has reached his original nature. And that reminded me of one aim of spiritual endeavor mentioned in the Yoga Shastra, the Prakriti Laya, which is there seen as a kind of pseudo-liberation. Would you also see this connection, or do you have something else in mind when you encountered this mentioning of Prakriti here in this connection?
Yes, I've never sort of considered this passage through the lens of the Patanjali Yoga Shastra, so it's an interesting point. And I suppose one would be reading a chapter in full, looking more closely at that. Of course, there's certainly an underlying Sankhya Purusha Prakriti metaphysics in this, but whether that refers to the Prakriti Laya practitioners that you mentioned, I don't know. I have to consider that more when reading the passage, reading the whole chapter. But an interesting point.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Jason.